And a very good morning to you all in Sydney. What a beautiful morning it is, 28th of March. And in the studio, I'm joined with my good old mate, Colesy. Yeah. Colesy, put your hands together for Colesy.
Thank you, Albert. Good to be here. It is a beautiful day.
Absolutely beautiful day.
We can ruffle some feathers on this beautiful day.
Wow, I'm sure we can. I mean, look, it's not what we set out to do. It's really not what we set out to do, but there are, however, some issues in society that need to be spoken about, need to be discussed, I guess.
Absolutely. We say our opinion, what we think is common sense and generally the best for society and everything. Of course, people are going to disagree and have their passionate opinions. We're not doing it personally. We think it's best for even those people, and we're just standing up for what we think is the best thing for everyone.
Excellent. Talk to me about Albo's recent visit to the mosque and the absolute horrible encounter that he had there. Anyone that thinks that was fine, there's something wrong with him.
It was completely un-Australian, un-Western world, our culture. It was embarrassing and shameful, to say the least. And look, politically, obviously, it's convenient for him. It's his voter base. Let's just call it that. We've got Tony Burke's seat there. But to see the Prime Minister of Australia sitting there without shoes on inside a mosque, which basically hardly any of us have ever been into. We don't even know what's in there. We feel very unwelcome. It's a new thing in Australia. It's not what we represent, especially on the back end of what's happened in December with the Bondi attack. Yep. And all of those sort of things, to act as if everything is okay and they are just another friendly culture, to be sitting there like that, I think that really put a lot of Australians out of joint. And then on top of it, the way he was received, the way he was treated.
Absolutely.
It was appalling. Almost like a mob
appalling
mentality, screaming at the Prime Minister to get him out, and then I had to have security guards surrounded by him to march him out, and he was heckled constantly. Absolutely. All the way, chased out of town basically. So how embarrassing is that for the nation of Australia, really, on our soil, to be treated by this foreign culture who should be grateful to be here, should be assimilating with us, and yet is demanding that we assimilate with them. And so it was not a good look, and for many, many reasons, I think most of us didn't take that well.
No, absolutely not. To think that this is our Commander-in-Chief sitting in this mosque, and that he is being heckled by these immigrants. Can you imagine Donald Trump sitting cross-legged with his shoes off, vulnerable in a mosque? Absolutely not.
The British Prime Minister, I can't even imagine him, and he's probably as lefty as Albo, but it was shocking, and it makes you wonder who. And it was their biggest day, wasn't it? Their Ramadan last day, and for him to be there, I can see how it was offensive for them, to be honest, but they invited him, so it was a complete schmozzle. And then to back it all up, to top it all off, I sit down on the TV, and an hour later, he's trying to tell everyone in Australia how nicely they treated him and how it was overwhelmingly a warm reception, and everyone was nice to him except for one or two people. And we've got video footage of the contrary. And that was completely embarrassing. And then the next day he spits up on social media that diversity is our strength again. And it's almost like he's trolling the Australian people at this point. I mean, he doesn't have to do these things. He could just be quiet on it. And we all know that our cultures don't mix very well at all. No. But he's trying to shove it in our face and gaslight us that they are very nice, and they're fitting in extremely well. And I think he's just taking it too far, and he's got to go.
He's got to go. Applaud if you think he's got to go. Okay, thank you. Look, after seeing that, I just thought, what is going on in this country? And the message that I got from that is the Prime Minister is so out of touch with the Australian people. That's not who we are.
It's happened quickly. We would have never seen any other leader prior to that support, let alone these protests that have been going on the last 2 years.
No way.
And support all the anti-West, anti-Israel, anti-civilization, anti-Christianity movements. I mean, the protests on the bridge, the protests on our streets every week. I think they had like 100 weekends in a row, probably more. And the government was pretty much supporting their protests and recognising the non-existent state of Palestine. And then we've had the Bondi attack, and looks like we're welcoming in ISIS brides. And then he's sitting down at the front of a mosque with socks on, like a school child. It was very vulnerable. What would happen if he literally got attacked there and killed? I mean, you'd hate to think of it, and you don't want to say it, but and all these politicians celebrating every other culture but our own. I know online, I just sense the temperature of the room that Aussies have had enough, and they need to start just acknowledging the Christian and Australian cultural days and allowing other people to assimilate to them. Yeah. Not us to theirs.
It's crazy. I mean, how do they come over here and then expect us to conform to them? They came here.
Exactly.
They came here. They chose to come to Australia. Why? Why come here and change what's already...
Exactly. And our government needs to live by that common sense as well. Instead of, even at the citizenship ceremonies, they're inviting other people to bring their cultures and to do that. And they're almost demanding that the Australians assimilate to their cultures, which is completely backwards. They have come to enjoy the Australian culture, to participate in our way of life, most of them. But then now it seems like they're getting the message that they don't need to. They want to bring their cultures and make this country like theirs. And Australians are getting our nose out of joint, and the politicians are not sticking up for us. We should be demanding that these people assimilate to our culture and our values. Yes,
100%.
Yes, you can have your Samoan parties like you did last night in your halls and things. But as far as in the culture, in the religion, in culture, in our way of life, in our expectations, in our councils, in our politics and things, no, we have our identity that we need to do, and that's what people came to enjoy.
Absolutely. So, on the question of culture, and this is something that I spoke to you earlier about in the car on the way here, what we need is, because I looked online, I looked on Google, so exactly what is Australian culture? What does it entail? If we can qualify it, quantify it, and articulate it to the masses. Yeah. So looking at the history of our country, where it's come from, I mean, predominantly it's Judeo-Christian and English roots, because we are, members of the Commonwealth. The motherland is England. Yep. We get Union all that. Jack. So the Union Jack, all of these things that are on our flag. Let's talk about that part of, like, what is the Australian culture thus far? How are we going to... I mean, we won't cover this all in this podcast because it's such an extensive thing, but this is something Colesy and I are thinking about, because... Yeah,
we'd like to define what Australian culture is. And then, we can encourage people, give people instructions of the little things that makes up Australia, our customs, our mannerisms and things. And then it will be helpful for people to know what those things are. But then on the flip side, we can also call people out who aren't fitting into the Australian culture.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I mean...
So I think you've hit the nail on the head. The Judeo-Christian and British... foundation of our country is that where we get our political system, the Westminster system.
Yes.
And a lot of our institutions come from England, basically. So whether people like it or not, this is the foundation of the Aussie culture.
It's a Commonwealth country. It's a Commonwealth country.
It's a Commonwealth country. Let's say it again. It is a Commonwealth country. We have the Union Jack. We have the Cross of Scotland, the Cross of England, and represented, and that makes us a Christian country. The King is the head of the Church of England.
Yep.
We are a Christian country. They say the Christian prayers in the Parliament, and
that's right.
All of the churches that were built here for hundreds of years. Yep. And so we have to acknowledge that, and we're sick of people who are trying to rewrite our history and our culture. So our foundations are very much on the English system, the political system, the economic system, the educational system, and the Judeo law and the law and everything. And then our Australian culture of the nuances that is specific to this land is built on top of that.
Excellent. And there's only one law.
That's
the last time I checked, there was the Australian common law.
Correct. The law of this land.
The law of this land.
Yes, under the crown of of England.
England.
And we do not allow other laws, and we're pretty sure that some people would be operating under laws other than our law in their own community, and that is unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Completely against. We cannot have that division because that will creep in until some people accept it, and it is unacceptable.
That's right. Absolutely right. I think the fact that these people are practicing other laws outside of Australian law, I would imagine that would happen in communities, where like remote communities, they happen in communities around Sydney, but it's all hush-hush.
Yes.
And I'll call the law out, Sharia law, for one.
Yes. Well, we know in Western Sydney there's been reports of a lot of underage marriages that are getting done, and obviously they would be consented to by the imams and the leaders of the society as deemed as okay, when that is obviously against the law of the land and against our customs, our culture, what we expect. In fact, let's just call it out. It's pedophilia. It's pedophilia in our culture.
There's no other way to
and that's
describe
almost the most hated, the worst crime that anyone commits, the most shameful and disgusting. And yet that culture, it's allowable, and so therefore it should be banned.
It should be banned
from our culture. It's incompatible.
Very, very much so incompatible. Look, thanks for your comments on that. We can discuss that more in depth later because there's so much to cover there.
It's an ongoing issue, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Colesy, lately I've been at the fuel bowser, and I've got to say I feel like I've been robbed. You're going to give your kidney away.
Don't go.
Oh, my goodness, I feel robbed. Been robbed. They're going to bring up the police and say, I've got like this, a criminal offence has just taken place here. I was robbed by Bowser number 5.
000.
000. I mean, it's crazy. The Australians are, having to, the family budget.
Yeah.
Trying to make ends meet. What's going on out there? Talk to me about that, Colesy.
Oh, I will talk to you about it. It is beyond the pale that the government is not even considering dropping the excise a little bit. I know the opposition has come out overnight and they wanted to strip 25 cents off a litre, and the government should have done it already. They've been completely silent on it. So they are making a mozza because the GST has not only increased per month during the fuel crisis by $300 million per month extra.
You're kidding me.
Month. And then you think you add the excise on top of that, because the GST is a percentage, so the price rises up, so the GST increases, and the excise is huge. So they are really hauling in the money during the fuel crisis, and yet they've been very silent on dropping or giving any relief back to the customer. So that's disgraceful. I mean, they should have at least been talking about it. It's a little bit like immigration. They just can't talk about it.
Disgraceful.
There's certain subjects they just cannot talk about. So, firstly, they haven't maintained the correct stores of fuel that we should have had. I think it's 90 days that the country should have kept. I think they're down to 30 days that they've kept. So we haven't been prepared for any crisis. So hopefully in the future, the government step up and prepare us, because it's probably not the only time it's going to happen. Let's face it. And we need to start drill, baby, drill for our own natural resources, gas and oil.
Which we have so much of.
And we can be self-sufficient and look after ourselves. And let's face it, sometimes the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. And you need these reserves of energy, especially to make it affordable.
Absolutely.
And cheap for our own citizens. And let's not continually give the advantage away to other countries. So, the government's been found wanting. It's shone a light on their energy policy lackings, which have been selling out our country.
Absolutely selling out, like the gas. Exporting gas, and we're not making any money on it.
And then we're buying our own gas back. That doesn't make sense.
I don't understand how a government can allow that to happen.
And I just wonder if it's politicians' relationships with big companies. It must be behind closed doors negotiations. Where they've got a lot of power. They're saying we're bringing a lot of jobs in, and wink, wink, nudge, nudge, there might be a job for you after that. And so
who knows?
They've never held these big companies to the proper account for paying the tax. Like Qatar brings in a lot of money, and I'm sure they pay for a lot of things for their own citizens. Was it houses, schooling, education, healthcare? And that's what we should be doing for our own citizens. And especially at a time like this with the crisis of cost of living. I mean, the Bowser is that's the last straw really for a lot of businesses and a lot of people, because the cost of living crisis was already there, which starts with the cost of housing and the rents and the mortgages, which are just eating up most of anyone's income. And so, this whole fuel debacle, it's it's really shone the light on government's responsibility of our energy and our resources, and we are getting hit big time.
Absolutely.
You drive a diesel car yourself,
Mate,
so you know.
I'll tell you.
And you have to do a lot of kilometres.
And I gotta say, mate, you know your stuff with the economics, and you are an accountant, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a CPA accountant for 20 years, so I deal with small businesses and individuals, and I talk about their finances, which people are loath to talk about even more than their health, to be honest. It's really close to the heart, as you know, the finances. So to understand, these small businesses, they're not living with big margins, and then to whack this on to your tradie, to your construction, to people who are driving around. It's an input to everyone's business. Like Australians, I know you travel a long way for your job.
Yeah, I do.
Hours on the road, and fuel is a massive part of what a lot of Aussies need to make their income. So it's really hurting.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, going to go to this one. I saw recently people burning flags on social media. And this caused so much anger amongst, and I think Australians would agree with me that this is just an absolute. This is
even as you said it. I think most Aussies, their blood pressure just rises a bit. I mean, the burning of the flag is unconscionable and is the ultimate sign that you've gone too far and that someone needs to be locked up, deported, whipped in public, something like that. And our government stands by and does nothing while they locking up other people for saying something ridiculous. There's literally people burning our flags. It doesn't matter if they're Aboriginal, if you're Palestinian supporter, if you're anything like that. There's no place for burning the Australian flag for our history, our heritage, the table that we're all eating off, the golden goose that lays the golden eggs, which is our culture and our society.
100%.
And you want to tear that down.
100%.
You'll be getting no more golden eggs. And it is our Westminster system. It's our law of the land. It's our Christian-based culture. And it's represented in the flag and the people who have built this country and the people who have fought and died for the freedom of this country that has allowed you to live in freedom, and even 100%. To the fact that you could have so much freedom that you can burn the flag. Well, I say it's time for that to stop. Time to bring in a law and penalise that, because that is unacceptable. What example does it send to children, to teenagers who are upset? We've got to have boundaries, and that's just a fundamental boundary to show respect for the country.
Excellent. Thank you so much, mate. That's if you feel you need to burn the flag, what have we done to you? As an Australian people, I'm saying, what have we done to you? Why are you burning us, the flag? You've just taken all of us and just wiped your backside of us. What the hell have we done?
Exactly.
We've done nothing to you.
Exactly. We are not anywhere near the Middle East. We cannot influence that. And we are a Christian democratic society, and we are not going to bow down to your demands of changing our culture and society, because that's what has produced a wonderful lifestyle and way of life, and that's what you came to join. And so you need to assimilate to us.
Please assimilate. You must assimilate. Thank you very much, Colesy, on that. Talk to me about the results of One Nation with the South Australian elections.
Fantastic, wasn't it?
Absolutely fantastic.
I think they're still counting, so we don't exactly know how many seats they will gain, but they've definitely gained, I think it's 2 to this stage in the lower house, and definitely at least 2 in the upper house, what I would call the Senate. But I think overall they got 22% of the vote, which is absolutely astonishing. I don't know what the past record...
Big round of applause for that. Big round of applause for that.
It's absolutely massive. I mean, they've outvoted the Liberals who were there, and so they are going to be the major, I believe, opposition in South Australia. I think Corey Bernardi was an excellent representative for One Nation in South Australia, and it's really set a tone. Next up is the Farrer by-election in Victoria, and then they'll have the Victorian state government election over there, and then 2028's the federal one. So I really feel like an orange wave has begun.
The orange wave, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, 22%. South Australia, well done.
Well done.
Outstanding.
The orange wave is coming. The orange wave is coming. And I'll tell you what, you've got to get on that wave. Either you're going to ride that wave and join us, or be dumped. Be dumped. What say you, Colesy? Yeah.
No, I love that.
Excellent. Good on you.
Look out for the wave.
It's a really, there's a changing sentiment in the Australian train of thought, and I think One Nation have been trying to hammer this message home and warning us about what's happening now in our society. They've
You're
been trying to
100%
warn
right.
us for so long.
I think a lot of people over many years have agreed with what she's saying, but haven't seen it as a viable option to vote for, almost like a waste of vote because they're not going to win or have too much influence. But in the last 6 months, I think probably since Bondi, people have just, boom, woken up collectively to get 22% of the vote. I mean, Pauline Hanson's from Queensland, so she gets most of her vote up there, and New South Wales, rurally, probably more votes for One Nation. But to get that many votes in South Australia, which is basically Adelaide and not too big many rural seats, is quite an astonishing. I don't think people realise how much that is, and I think their vote's only going to grow, which is very exciting because they stand for the Australian culture. They put Australia first, and this is exactly what we need.
Exactly what we need. Exactly what we need. Well, I'll tell you what, Colesy, once again, it's been a pleasure having you in the studio this morning, mate. And God bless you, mate. Hope the rest of your weekend turns out fine.
Champion.
Good on you, mate.